Very good morning to one and all. And thank you, His Excellency Dr. Rashid Aleem, for giving me this opportunity to stand here and present to you one of our success stories. So as my first slide suggests, and as even the agenda suggests, I'm probably here to talk about a project management model and tell you how we implemented a sales automation system. But that's where you're wrong. I'm not here to talk about any of that. I am here to tell you a story, a fairy tale actually. And the next 20 minutes are not going to be me just telling you how a sales automation project was implemented in Siva. The next 20 minutes are going to be me telling you a fairy tale which has a protagonist, an antagonist, it has a fairy godmother, it has a king, and its ups and downs, and most importantly, a happy ending. So are you all ready to listen to the story with me? I can't hear you. Are you all ready? Great, amazing. So let us move on with the contents of this project management model, or the story. So this is basically my content. This is basically what this story has. And each phase that you see over here is nothing but a chapter in this story that I'm going to be telling you. So I'm a little bit of a clumsy storyteller, so I need you to make sure that you remember these phases so that if I get stuck, you can help me out. So you'll help me out? Will you help me out? I think you all need to wake up. Can we have some coffee for these people? All right. So the first phase is Imagineering. The second phase is Eco-Imagination. The third phase is Critical Thinking. The fourth phase is Execution. And the fifth phase is Knowledge Capture and Storage. All right? So I need you to remember these phases, how much ever you can, and then we'll move on to the story. So as every story starts, once upon a time, there was a kingdom called Siva. And this kingdom was led by a mighty king. And this king saw that there were a few flaws in the way Siva was running, especially in one of his provinces, Zulal, which was responsible for distributing and bottling drinking water. So what was happening was that this province was not functioning efficiently. There was no tracking for the sales that was going on. It was all manual billing. So then he, with the help of his wise wizard, thought, why not we appoint a noble warrior dedicated to this mission? And then they appointed a noble warrior just dedicated for this mission, which is basically our project manager. I'm just going to call him a noble warrior. So the perception about our hero, which is the noble warrior, usually is that what the boss thinks a project manager does, what his mom thinks that he does, what society thinks that he does, what his coworker thinks that he does, what he thinks he does, but the reality is that he's just coding all night. So let us begin with the first chapter, which is Imagineering. So Imagineering is a unique amalgamation of imagination and engineering. And in fact, Disney was the first one who came up with this term. And Kingdom Siva has its own chief Imagineering officer even. So that is what the first chapter is, Imagineering. You visualize and you think and you engineer the idea down. So the first thing they did was they benchmarked with the top brands around the region. They saw what other regions were doing and they wanted to take inspiration from them. So they saw what My Dubai was doing, they saw what they were using, and they decided to go with top brands like Honeywell and use the system InVans by InCube. And this would help them in getting accurate and on-time reports. The next phase, or the chapter, is Eco-Imagination. Eco-Imagination is something where our warrior calculated how much paper was being consumed every day and how much we could save by this project. So every day, a salesman was using 2 A3 papers, which was around 6 A4 size papers because they were 3-ply. 60 salesmen were using 6 pages. There were around 60 salesmen, so that was 360 pages daily. And the management was using around 40 pages to check their reports. And totally, it was around 400 pages that were being used every day. So in, say, 20 working days, it was around 400 pages. That was around 8,000 sheets. So if you can do the math, can you tell me in 365 days how many papers were you using, 365 working days? How many trees would you be saving? I'm sorry, I'm an engineer, so I just put like a question of math randomly around. Okay, it's okay, I won't trouble you too much. It was around 9 trees that you would be saving. And looking at this, the wise wizard also got really happy, and so was the noble warrior. And as you can see, that's the noble warrior and that's the wise wizard. Just now, to explain the importance of our next phase, I want you to look at this challenge. Many of you must have heard of it. It's called the Marshmallow Challenge. The challenge is simple. You have 18 minutes. You build the tallest freestanding structure out of 20 sticks of spaghetti, 3 feet of tape, and 3 feet of string, and just one marshmallow, and the marshmallow should be on top. So who would you think would have, done this challenge really well? Wow, we already have a really good answer, and that is actually true. Out of all these people, you can see that unfortunately business school graduates did not even meet the average. Lawyers were a little bit above. CEOs just managed to go above the average. Executive admins were way above CEOs. Kindergarten kids, come on, they were there on top. And thank God architects and engineers know what they're doing. At least they're there over there. So what kindergarten students did differently was that they made prototypes. And unlike the others were just like, yeah, let's just start. But these kids were making prototypes. And that's what makes us feel important is the next stage, which is critical thinking, which is our next chapter. Critical thinking is critical and lateral. So critical is where you're all technical, and lateral is where you're all free to think whatever you want. So when you think with both of them, you make the perfect idea. You do the perfect project. So in this phase, the noble warrior thought that you should use barcoded coupon books. That way you can track all your data. And the next thing was to gather all this data. But there was a challenge there. There was an antagonist who was not willing to take barcoded books, and nobody was willing to provide the data. And with that challenge in his mind, he thought what his mighty king said once, that change management is not about changing and installing a hardware or a software. It's about changing someone's brainware. And as we've had a lot of discussion here today, that it's all about the perception, it's all about the mind. So it's all about changing someone's brainware. But now, with all these challenges in our mind, we come to a very important phase, which is after every phase. It's called the phase gate. Now, this phase gate happens after every phase, where you validate if the project is still needed, and you validate if these risks that are coming with the project, which, as I mentioned, were a lot of them, are even still required